Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney. Disney has decided they need to destroy more of their classic history. They will be doing a live-action remake of Bambi, yes, the classic 1942 film, but they're first going to modernize it for current audiences. As one comment said on Twitter, the movie entirely took place in a forest, and there's nothing that screams, hey, this was made in the 1940s about it. It's one thing if you even want to remake Snow White and say, well, we don't want to make references to dwarfs. We don't want the main character, Snow White, to feel like she's a female character from that dated history. She needs to be a leader, as they like to say. All Disney protagonists need to be females now, and they need to be female future leaders. But when you're talking about Bambi, something that happened in the forest is just something that happened in the forest. How are you going to modernize that? Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from Newsweek, Disney's Bambi remake will change a key scene to avoid traumatizing kids. Disney's going to make more changes to this than just one scene. The scene they're talking about, spoiler alert, is when Bambi's mother dies. This came from an interview where a former Disney screenwriter behind the Bambi remake said they may get rid of that scene because it's too triggering for parents and children. However, I do follow a lot of Disney stories, and the one thing I can see is that Disney is mostly concerned with their influence on the public. They need to push whatever their woke progressive agendas are through their content. They really don't do everything just for a profit and loss basis. So if you look at Disney's movies and you say, well, I don't know, they lost like $900 million on their last several movies. Isn't that a problem for them? Yeah, it's a small problem for them, but they understand they need to make an investment in changing the culture into this new mess that they want to change it into. They need to erase all of the history that came before and not allow Disney to produce content that supports what they consider to be an outdated culture. Everything is about updating it. So whatever appears in Bambi, whether it's the killing of Bambi's mother or not, when they say they want to modernize Bambi, it needs to promote their progressive agenda. Just recently did a video about Wish, Disney's new movie coming out over Thanksgiving, and it's pushing all of their progressive agendas. They make a lot of money with their cable channels. They make a lot of money with their theme parks. The movies are there for them to change the culture, not for them to make money, at least not right now. Coming from Newsweek, here we go. Disney's Bambi is getting a live-action remake over 80 years since the animated version hit screens. Like the company's other classic cartoons, to get the treatment, the news has divided fans over the entertainment giant, and they've taken to social media to express their dissent. In an interview with Collider on September 26th, writer Lindsay Anderson Beer shared her plans for the remake. Quote, I do think there is a way to update Bambi, and our take on it did give a little bit more of a scope to it. And I just think that to be able to bring it to life for kids these days in a way that maybe they relate to a bit more would be of service to the original. This is the key statement. Don't get lost in this, oh, well, they're going to fix this traumatizing event. We don't want to trigger kids with their mom dying. They don't care about triggering kids. They care about influencing kids. Watch this statement. This is what you're going to see when they talk about it relating a little bit more would be of service to the original. How are they going to make it relate? What are they going to change in this movie? We'll find out as time goes on, because one of the things Disney will do is leak out information about these projects in advance so they can take the social media hits, so they can take the punishment and the negative feedback and have it be baked in so it's not as much of a surprise when they release their travesty, destroying whatever their original classic was. They do it every time. A recent poll conducted by Redfield and Wilton Strategies on behalf of Newsweek found that 50% of American adults were happy for Disney to update its older content to align with modern values, although the majority of respondents wish Disney would create new stories rather than remake its archive. These are people that kind of don't get the whole picture yet. So for people to say, oh, I'm glad they're updating their older content to make it more relevant to modern audiences, Those people don't understand. These are the same people that are doing things like this. They're literally tampering with literature. They're changing words in literature like they did with classics from Dahl so that they wouldn't offend people, supposedly, so that certain words and certain phrases and certain ideas would not be in front of the public. Changing literature and changing stories to update them and make them fit modern sensibilities is the most ridiculous and tyrannical thing you could do. This is what George Orwell talked about in 1984, and even 1984 is getting changes to it now. Of course, when you go ahead and you change classics, you change the meaning of these stories and you remove them from history. You're burning history. The purpose of history is to be able to learn from history so that we don't repeat the things we don't want to repeat, and we cherish and appreciate the things that contributed to our culture. When you burn it all down, when you get rid of all of it, you set yourself up for a terrible, terrible tyrannical future. Fans are unhappy with the idea of modernizing Bambi, which was released in 1942 and was Walt Disney's fifth feature-length animation. This is the best comment I've seen on this. Quote, "How exactly do you modernize something that took place in the middle of the forest?" wrote JWC cartoonist on X, the social network formerly known as Twitter. Quote, "There was nothing about Bambi's original story that screamed this was made in the 1940s. Bambi is literally a universally understood story," posted the Abbey Roadie. "It's a coming-of-age tale told with animals in a timeless forest, full of moments of joy, loss, danger, and love, all facets of not only the human experience, but of life itself. There is zero need to modernize it." That is correct, but Disney is not looking to have common human experiences. They're looking to have divisive experiences. They're looking to change reality for as many people as possible. And the people that resist that, they're looking to not make content for. They're trying to delegitimize, phase out, get rid of the people that don't buy into their new agenda. They do not want divided America to find commonality in anything. In the past, it was always understood that we're all Americans and we all want to share ideas, even if we disagree about some things. Whether it's Bud Light or Disney's content, there's no desire from the people that create these experiences with their consumer products for people to have any kind of positive shared experience. Everything must be divisive until the enemy no longer exists. This is really what they're doing. I wish I didn't do so many of these videos and the patterns wouldn't become so apparent, but they're very apparent and it's black and white. Slim agreed, writing, quote, "It's a film that is legitimately timeless and can't be modernized because there's nothing about it that's been made irrelevant or outdated. Dragging out classics from the graves and putting on shiny new clothes to squeeze more money out of them is disrespectful to their legacy," commented Manny Artist. "You're meant to be a creative company. Stop rehashing and go create." Like other recent live-action remakes, such as The Little Mermaid and the upcoming Snow White, some users accuse the studio of going woke by modernizing the original story. Quote, "They'll make the hunter an evil white man. Bambi's mom will be a message about incel rage, and Bambi will also be black," wrote at Nintendo Fan 729. Quote, "I can't wait for the powerful scene when Bambi and Thumper learn a TikTok dance," posted Brookside Fontaine. In the interview with Collider, Beer expressed her admiration for the original film, describing it as a beautiful love poem. Quote, "I do think there's an entire generation of children who have never seen the original, and that's very different from, say, Little Mermaid or Aladdin or the 1990s heyday films that they've definitely already seen. I can't tell you how many kids I've seen who've never seen Bambi, which is such a shame," she added. Beer said the original animation is a different tempo to what modern audiences are accustomed to, highlighting the scene where Bambi's mom is shot and killed by a hunter. There's a treatment of the mom dying that I think some parents these days are more sensitive about than they were in the past, and I think that's one of the reasons that they haven't showed it to their children, Beer said. Disney has released a spate of live-action remakes of its animated classics in recent years, although some of these films, including The Lion King and The Little Mermaid, performed relatively well at the box office. The Lion King did much, much better than The Little Mermaid, and they spent an absolute ridiculous fortune producing The Little Mermaid. It did not lose money. It didn't really make much money. It wasn't that big of a deal in one way or the other, although they've lost the opportunity to make hundreds of millions of dollars if they just would have made The Little Mermaid not ridiculous and woke. The Lion King made a lot of money for them, which it always has. The decision to overhaul its classic cartoons has split fans, while attempts to make older stories more politically correct has angered conservatives and normal people. After Black actress Halle Bailey was cast as Ariel in the live-action version of The Little Mermaid, the 23-year-old became the target of abuse online. Disney insulted the public and told them, well, we didn't hire her because she was Black. It wasn't intended to be a race swap. She just sang really well. And that's become a little bit unrealistic, noting that Disney keeps doing this again and again with the race swaps. Rachel Ziegler, who is playing Snow White in the upcoming remake, was also attacked by social media trolls for calling the 1937 film outdated. Ziegler was criticized for a lot of stupid statements she made, for a lot of attacks on the public, attacks on the brand and the history of Snow White, saying she never liked Snow White in the first place. It made absolutely no sense. Lately, she's been very quiet online. Ziegler was stupid enough to say, quote, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time. As if Ziegler knew what she was talking about, as if the entire animation business of Disney wasn't launched on that story. Who would go back and say, you know something, sure, Walt Disney was kind of a smart guy, but I'm 22 years old, so I know better what Snow White should really be rather than Walt Disney. This is how bad it's gotten over at Disney. The reason Bob Iger tolerates this, the reason that Disney is continuing to do this kind of stuff, is not because Disney can't figure out how to make profitable movies that'll please their fans. They're not interested in that whatsoever. What their interest is eliminating the history, eliminating the past, eliminating, minimizing, delegitimizing, insulting the people they don't want anywhere near their future version of their brands, and then just producing as much as they can to satisfy that future customer that's going to be woke, that's going to be part of the progressive agenda, and that's all they think about. They could care less what happens with the movies. Unfortunately, because Disney makes so much money from their theme parks now, $8 billion over the last year, billions more from their cable channel distribution, and they're still losing money on streaming, but eventually they probably will actually turn that around. They don't care what happens with the movies. They only care that all of their brands and all of their characters are woke. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.